You're live with the conversation. My name is Adebola Adeduba. Now, Sudan's Sovereign Council leader Abdel Fattah Al-Burhan has ruled out a return to pre-war status with the rival Rapid Support Forces, RSF. In a televised speech, he condemned the RSF as murderers and criminals, citing the nearly 25,000 killed and over 10 million displaced since April 2023. Now, the conflict between Sudanese army and the RSF has ravaged the country, spreading to at least 13 states and causing widespread destruction. Despite mediation efforts by countries like the US and Saudi Arabia, a ceasefire has yet to be secured, with both sides accusing each other of hindering the process. And to help unwrap these, we'll be joined by our guest, and that's Dr. David Matsanga, who is an African Affairs Analyst. Good afternoon. Glad to have you join me on the program.
Good evening, right from Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. Thank you very much.
All right. Now, General Abdel Fattah Al-Burhan's declaration that a return to pre-war conditions with the RSF is not possible is indeed a significant shift. What does this imply about the future of the country's political as well as military landscape?
This is a very, very dangerous. First of all, I would like to say I've been following all this from the beginning when the war started sometime in May 2023. I've been on it and I've been telling the world, I've been following, going to peace talks in Geneva to find out as an independent observer, quietly, technically, trying to see whether we can pull a deal. And for this to happen, there must be something very important that must push the two generals on table. The other time, the same general said, if UAE and other countries are on table, he will not come. Now he's said he is not going to be part of the parcel of anything. Anyway, I understand him. I understand the situation of Sudan. The situation is very precarious, and we need a solution. What can bring the solution? What can bring these two generals on table? I have the medicine.
Now, before we talk solutions now, we saw Al-Burhan referring to the RSF as murderers and criminals, and also their supporters as well, referring to them as murderers and criminals. Can you explain the extent of the RSF's involvement in the violence as well as atrocities since the conflict began?
It is very bad. Both sides have been very, very, very dangerous, especially the one of RSF. They have been killing, they have been maiming, they have been raping, they have been defiling children, women, men, everybody. In fact, if you go on the west eastern part of Sudan in Darfur region, you cry. You cry from morning after evening. You can see what they have done. What is happening in Darfur is horrible. It is beyond genocide. And we have been keeping quiet, not telling the world the truth. The truth is these two armies are engaged in a very brutal war, and therefore the killing, none of them can tell the other that this is brutal or whatever it is. The government that remains in place is the government of General Burhan. Both of them, I know these two commanders very well from 1994, and I have known what their genesis of their troubles. Both of them were commanders of Janjaweed. Both of them who should have actually been able to be taken out of Sudan, but the ICC, because of its corrupt tendencies at that time, it came for Bashir. So if they don't come up, the situation is going out of hand. And therefore, accusing one another, this one being a bad one and the other one the bad one, that doesn't work for me at all.
Narrowing down on this scale of, incident happening and how it's affecting people, over 25,000 people, we understand, have reportedly been killed, and we have more than 10 million displaced since the conflict began. How does these figures, I have mentioned, how do you think they reflect the scale of catastrophe in the, in Sudan region?
It's huge. It's a very big, it's a huge catastrophe. It's a humanitarian catastrophe. We are looking at only Ukraine. We are looking at the Middle East, but we are not looking at Africa. The whole of the world, the UN has not focused on Sudan. The number of people displaced, the children, around 4 million children are caught up in a conflict. Food has not reached the place where they should have a center and go and pick food. No, this is what the world should do now, should force these generals. Either one, this month, this year, I am happy that Trump has come back. Let me address directly to the government of the United States of America to put a no-fly zone, one over Sudan and areas, especially for the humanitarian goods to arrive to the young, to the children, the women, and the elderly who have not received the food since the war started. Two, to force the two generals to put deterrent. We must have a deterrent that they have to come on table. One of the solutions is that the international criminal courts have got to come up. They have to spring up and issue warrants. I have applied myself. I've put the documents before the chief prosecutor. I have placed the document to the pre-trial chamber, well written, with evidence to the chief prosecutor to start an investigation, to seek warrants of arrest. Why do you arrest Netanyahu? Yet there's blood also flowing here in Sudan. We must have equity. Surely, why should you be harassing other places, but our place, people are dying, you have not harassed anybody. So we need this, if international distribution of punishment. Let's also now force the generals to come on table. If they have warrants on their heads, they will think twice before they go and bring about any more killings in that country.
Let me get your perspective on what the broader regional implications are of this crisis, particularly for neighboring countries like Chad, South Sudan, as well as Egypt, that have been affected by refugee flows and, of course, insecurity.
The situation in Sudan is, in Chad is even worse. If you go to Jamena, I've been to Jamena about 3 times. I have observed, investigated, gathered intelligence. I really know exactly who is doing what and what is going on there. There are over 30,000 troops or more in South Libya. Who is funding these troops? Who is funding these troops? Who has given them the army, the uniform, the money, the logistics to be able? Are they not being used by one of the forces, the sides, to increase more havoc? The world, the UN must stand up. The UN just came and did paperwork, conducted and found out that United Arab Emirates supplies drones which are killing civilians in Sudan. Okay, what action have they taken? Nothing. Look, if you go to Egypt, too many, not only Egypt, all the areas, South Sudan itself, of which the pictures you are showing there, you should be, those are the pictures from South Sudan. It is having a catastrophe that you can never think about. They have never recovered from their own war. The refugees are in. In Ethiopia, the refugees are in. In places as far as Uganda, in Saudi Arabia, across the Red Sea, there are refugees everywhere. So it is affecting the geopolitical situation of the whole region. We have a problem in security. You cannot fly over Sudan. Our planes, you are taking longer time to reach London and reach Portugal, Spain, and other countries in Europe. You have to fly deeper towards Dakar and towards Morocco in order to go to Europe, because that is the type of disruption that the world should look at and stop it.
Dr. Matsanga, I must, ask you, is there any hope on the horizon? Is the possibility of peace even possible looking at this conflict between these countries now? What do we stand to see in future? Are we seeing peace talks soon?
If we put pressure, if we put warrants of arrest, they will come on table. We must issue warrants of arrest. And the chief prosecutor, if he's delaying, I'm going to go to the British court. I'm going to go to the old bail. and take a personal responsibility against the chief prosecutor. Because if he's not issuing warrants against the two generals who have refused to come for peace talks, we have another way in international law. We shall capture. The chief prosecutor comes from a country which observes rule of law and which has to, you can't be part and a parcel of watching a situation when it is going so bad without you intervening. So, Mr. Chief Prosecutor, my good friend Karim Khan, time has come for you to act. You acted on several places. You acted on Kony, issued warrants of arrest. Kony was supposed to come on the table. I was one of the chief negotiators of that peace process in Uganda. Why don't you issue warrants on these two generals so that they will know they will not fly anymore? They have to come in Geneva, or they have to come in Addis Ababa, or we have got to go to some place where we can hammer an agreement. Either they want to part ways, we don't mind, but let them come on table so that they can tell us what is the problem, what has made them fight, why are people dying, why are people being killed, children who have not gone to school, food has not arrived in the areas, containment areas. What shall we do? Warrants of arrest is the only solution to be put on these two generals.
Now, talking about solution, Dr. Matsanga, we understand Sudan has been in the precarious transition towards democracy for a long time now. In fact, since the ousting of Omar al-Bashir in 2019. In your view, do you think the conflict, the conflict with the ISF has derailed this process completely, or is there still room for democratic transition after the war?
There can't be, how will you do a transition when there is nobody to do a transition with? Everybody is in exile. All people are in exile. Those who are contained, who have remained in Khartoum, are either hiding under the bunkers, or they cannot come openly because there are some elements of RSF within Khartoum and the other one has shifted the headquarters to Port Sudan. So how a transition with who? You can't have any transition. The hopes for peace can only come when peace is enforced, when these two generals are forced to come on the table. That's the only, they're my friends, but I'm sorry, now time has come. The international law has to catch up with you. I've been calling them. I've been trying to do informal discussion behind the scenes, because I know them from 1994. I've known both of them. I've known Bashir. I've known Sudan. And I know who is who, what is going on there. And another thing that I want to alert the world is the question of United Arab Emirates. Please, this country, you have money, but you are spending money in a wrong project. You are spending money in wrong projects that are destabilizing Africa. I'm watching you. We are watching you. We shall soon raise a very serious alarm against you, because you cannot be enjoying while people are dying. I have gone to court over other matters like Libya. I've placed Sarkozy papers in court in ICC, and now I am lucky. God has given luck to me. Sarkozy has gone down. He has lost an appeal. He has to go to jail. We want him not to go to jail. We want him to come this side and answer some charges of what he did. And it is that destabilizing factor, of UAE, external forces, and then Saudi Arabia on the other side. While UAE supplies arms on this side, Saudi Arabia is also supplying arms on this side. These are the countries we are going to call out. And for me, if only touch Africa, I will call you out. And I will always call you out, because I've called people out and we have ended wars.
Now, in the spirit of seeking solutions and also trying to broker peace, we understand that countries such as US and Saudi Arabia try to negotiate peace and, of course, a ceasefire, but that has not yielded any result so far. Why do you think these international initiatives failed?
They have failed because they are participants. They are participants in supply of arms. Quit, period. There is no other answer I can give you. United States of America has interest. Saudi Arabia has interest. We need a neutral arbiter. We need a neutral mediation. That's why both sides are saying, pulling, if Saudi Arabia talks are there, I'm not coming. If UAE is there, I'm not coming. So we need a neutral arbiter. We need Guterres, Antonio Guterres. I don't know, he used to be a very good man. When I met him in 2002, 2003 in Khartoum, he used to be a very good person. What has happened to this guy? He can't make a decision on who should be in charge and come back to the United Nations, to African Union headquarters. African Union should wake up. I'm very happy that we are going to elect an African Union candidate, a new man called Raila Odinga, who can now marshal this support, and bring this peace process to our headquarters. We want to talk as Africans. We are fed up of being, presided over, being looked after like children, and being commanded by United States of America to go this way, Yet, we are 67 years of independence. Let's solve our problems. And the only way to solve the problems is for Africa to elect a man at the African Union, a stronger guy, a stronger man like Raila Amolo Odinga as the Secretary General, as the chairperson of African Union. He will bring these peace talks in Addis Ababa. The war will end. Nobody has visited Khartoum. Nobody. Musa Faki has not visited Khartoum. How will you end the war? We don't know what is inside. Civilians are crying for help. Why did we create these organizations? And then we have here we are. We are saying there is a problem. We go this way. America tells us Trump is going to give us other instructions. No, let's go this time. Let's work hard and bring back the peace process back to Addis Ababa with a new chairperson next month. We bring back the process and make sure that Sudan gets the peace, returns to the African Union and sits down. We can resolve the problems.
Dr. Matsanga, like the saying goes, when two elephants fight, the grass suffers for it. The grass in this case now is the economic implication of the war. Can you speak to what the impact would be for either countries, looking at them, being able to recover once the fighting ceases?
The damage that has been done, my sister, is too short. The damage is too short, but it can recover. It can only recover now if we can intervene now. But if we wait longer, we might not find anything there. The impact is so huge. And it is that impact that I am saying must be resolved, must be seen in terms of urgency, and put up a way to make sure that we get help going inside, get the warring parties on table. The only way to get these things done properly is to get the warring parties on table so that we can stop further destruction, further the little that is left. Rescue people, rescue our people out, and they come out. That is the only way to get back to Sudan. Then after that, we need a huge donor conference. We shall need a huge donor conference that must give Sudan money to rebuild itself. It has been damaged. The agriculture is gone. The farms have been destroyed. The security has spread everywhere. Prisoners have been released. Everybody has gone his own way. My sister, this is a catastrophe. The impact is indeed huge.
All right, you're watching The Conversation. Our guest has been Dr. David Matsanga. He's still with us. He's an African Affairs Analyst. We'll take a short break. When we return, more conversation here on The Conversation.
Because the parties that are mediating have taken part. The parties that are mediating are also participants in the war. Saudi Arabia supplies arms to Burhan. UAE supplies arms to RSF. America is not neutral. France has hidden behind RSF and under UAE. So the Secretary General of the United Nations must come out clearly and put an envoy. The envoy they have put there seems to be either very soft or weak. I don't see any movement. The African Union envoy also equally, they seem to be helpless, because when you have two big powers with money, the ones who can call themselves, the ones who can pay and call it the shots, being part and parcel of the entire process. One side says, I'm not coming. And the other side said, if you are not coming, then we are also not coming. We don't want you to come. We want the other one to come. So these are some of the things that are worrying me. And that I've been following this war. I've been following it each and every day. Every day I've been following, and there's no day that I sleep without talking about Sudan. Because this was a beautiful country in the corridor of River Nile, a historical country with historical monuments where River Nile flows and where people live on this water for millions and millions of. We have lost a country. Therefore, for me, I cannot be an African. I cannot be a scholar and say myself, I walk around and say without talking about it and calling people out. The truth is that the UN Secretary General has paid more attention to the situation in Gaza than the situation in Sudan. They have paid more to the situation in Ukraine than they have paid more attention to the situation in Africa. So why are we not equal? We are all members of United Nations. Why Ukraine? Why Ukraine and not Sudan? Why Israel and Gaza, not us? The catastrophe that is taking shape in Sudan is like the catastrophe that is in Gaza. Why don't you come to our aid? Why hasn't the Secretary General put us as a priority? We are not a priority. We are second-hand citizens of United Nations. So what is going on is really a very bad thing for the United Nations. Now, therefore, I call upon him to pull up his socks.
Now, talking about priority and, of course, the African continent, how can we rewrite that perspective for us to have priority when it comes to international issues like these, or countries trying to mediate in conflicts among countries?
Is to put a good secretariat in the African Union. We don't have the African Union, my sister. Is captured by the French. You see, my campaign on these television stations, I have been telling you, and I've been saying it, and thank you, God, He's brought the miracle. Everybody is chasing France away. I want to thank everybody who has chased France away from our continent. Colonial masters left. We work with them as partners. Why is France making us children? We are not children to be policed by a state in Europe. No, and that is very good. That is why I'm saying we need a powerful African Union. We need a powerful African Union Secretariat that can make decisions so that we can call these leaders to order. Without that, we are dead. We have a weak African Union Commission that was captured by the French. That's why Africa is always looked at. They are calling for conference to drink tea and eat food, and then they come back while people are dying on the continent. That's why we need to elect a new chairperson, Raila Amolo Odinga of Kenya, to make sure that he takes over and takes charge of this type of confusion. We shall help him to resolve these conflicts. I know these generals. President Museveni knows I know both of them. From 1994, I know General Burhan. I know General Hamid. They used to work with us. I know them. With Bashir, I know them. Why are we not taking people to their informal discussion with them? There are countries that are making us not to meet the target. So we need a powerful African Union that is not compromised by any of the superpowers in Europe, and that does not talk, because France has told them to talk. I want to thank Alassane Ouattara, for sacking, giving notes to the French to leave the territory of Africa. That is very good. More. Next is Senegal. You must tell them to leave.
It's interesting you touched on France. The fallout from that has been Niger, accusing Nigerian government, the president of Niger, Abdurrahman Chiani, accusing Nigerian government of colluding with France in destabilizing the country. How do you think Nigeria and as well as the body ECOWAS can navigate that allegation in ensuring unity among the African countries?
Thank you very much. Truly, I've been following this story. Again, in Burkina Faso, Niger, Mali. Thank you very much. You've done very well. Military coups, but they have done very well. Let's give them a credit. They are better than civilian governments in that region. And therefore, I would be a stupid African in 2025 to say there is no development since the army took power in Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso. I've been there 3 times. The accusations, allegedly, it is not if, allegedly, because they see His Excellency President Tinubu, your president, in bed with Macron. And that is the Macron we are chasing out of Africa. That His Excellency Tinubu knows this. We are chasing Macron out of Africa. We want him to be in Paris and we work as partners, not him to be policing us, patronage. No. And that message, Matsanga has been carrying it up across Africa. The French bring us more wars. The French bring us conflict. Look at all the French-speaking countries. Everywhere in Africa, there is a conflict. Congo, Libya, they have divided Libya into 2. Then the accusations that are now being labeled on Nigeria, intelligence reports are suggesting so, yes. We have picked intelligence of that nature. It's on a serious note. And therefore, it is up to the government of Nigeria and the Minister of Foreign Affairs to answer that. I am not their spokesman, but I am, as an African Affairs Analyst and a specialist and investigative journalist. Yes, why is Boko Haram? Why is France, again, funding Boko Haram? Why are these organizations why are they gaining strength instead of losing strength? We have a big army in Nigeria. Why can't we, if Nigeria cannot solve the problem of Boko Haram, let it put out an alert to the whole Africa, and we contribute troops to come there. My Ugandan troops, the Ugandan troops, we are battle hardened. We have managed to take away Al-Shabaab out of Mogadishu. They can only come to beat us, throw bombs here. But we have wiped them out of Mogadishu. We are isolating them. We can come there to help you if you cannot help yourselves. So the situation down there is, as I'm telling you, my sister, the generals there are not happy. Well, and they have evidence which they have tabled. I've seen some of the evidence, looks credible. Because if you look at the formation of Sahel region, how the terrorism and the terrorists and the groups that have been fighting Mali, Niger, and others are operating. Where do they get these arms? Where are they getting supplies? And yet the supplies routes are blocked by the countries. What is going on here? So it is up to the government of Nigeria to answer that. So you could put that question to them. Thank you. I hope I have answered your question.
Well, absolutely. Let's look at the role the incoming president will play, and that's the president of the United States of America, that's Donald Trump, come 20th January 2025, this month, as the 47th president of America. What are your hopes in terms of him bringing about peace regarding the war in Sudan?
Oh, my God. Very many hopes. You know why? Trump is going to be the first assignment. One of the chief of staff of Trump, Susie Wills, was a PR guru. We have met several times in London when we are dealing with a case of a Nigerian man called Namdi Khan. And I want to tell you frankly, that is very, Mr. Tinubu must be standing on his tiptoes. If he doesn't release this guy, it is chaos. Susie Willis, the chief of staff of Trump, and she was the chief PR lobbyist for the release of Nnamdi Kanu. So that is where you have to be careful. And therefore, Trump is not going to joke. He's going to tell you either you do it or you don't do it. So that is where you can see the way I'm speaking very happy, because I know what I've been warning people. As soon as Trump arrives here on 20th, some things are going to change. There are countries that he's going to put no-fly zone, like a Cameroon. He was about to put a no-fly zone on Cameroon. On Sudan, he's going to send a new envoy, because this other envoy of Biden was either having a lot of beers or having a whiskey. I don't drink alcohol myself, but they were relaxing in Geneva. I watched their behavior, and I could analyze each and every behavior. They didn't know. They don't even know the geography of the place. So it is sad, total sadness, that we must now be happy that Trump is coming to power on 20th, and he's coming to power on 20th. Believe me or not, my sister, there will be several changes, and hopes Sudan will get peace. The two generals, I am warning you. I'm warning you, because this time there are people who have some contact with State House, White House. There are people who are going to say, Susie, what's going on here? Man, you help us here. And it is the chief of staff who can influence the president to take some decision. It is good. I'm very happy that this lady took up this post, a great lady, an intelligent lady. We have worked on these cases in Africa quietly as a lobby group. I'm happy Trump will bring peace, and we shall petition Trump the first week in office that he puts envoy for Sudan.
Well, like they say, fingers crossed as we wait for Trump to see what solution he can bring about regarding the war in Sudan. But if this war gets further prolonged, that's the war in Sudan, what could be the impacts on Sudan's stability as well as development?
The regions, the instability is everywhere now. Uganda has so many refugees from Sudan north of Khartoum. We have a number of refugees from South Sudan, but now we have a huge number of refugees coming from Sudan, coming to apply for asylum down in Uganda, in Kenya, in Ethiopia, in Chad. If you go to Jamena, you find all the type of illicit trade taking place. The humanitarian catastrophe around Darfur is so bad. Women are being raped. Let's look at that aspect where younger girls are dying instead of being gang raped by RSF soldiers, combatants. Surely, and the world is watching. No, let's look at that. It is already chaos. It's already chaos in Egypt. And Egypt seems to have taken sides also, just as what they have done in Libya. I would like to say to international agencies to investigate who is the owner of over 20,000 to 30,000 troops, rebels in South Sudan, commanded by General Khalifa Haftar. And that is where the source of the strength of some of the people fighting in Sudan are coming from. So you can see that instability in the Nile corridor, and which could spark a war, because already Egypt and Ethiopia are already fighting. They are fighting. And they are about to fight. It is just a spark that will make them fight, Egypt and Ethiopia, because they are even exporting their own problems down this way to Somalia. So if you look at that Sudan insecurity has destabilized the entire region of the Great Lakes region plus the Nile corridor up to Mediterranean Sea. And it could catch Chad, Cameroon, Central African Republic. You see all those areas are neighboring Sudan. So the area will resolve it. the better for the region.
I'd like to find out from you, Dr. Matsanga, the role of social media. We understand social media can be used for both good or bad, but in terms of this conflict or war in Sudan, how do you think social media has been used by both parties, and what impact has it had on the conflict narrative?
I have used the social media myself to call on groups to come up to support. The Sudanese are very good at social media. The younger girls, the younger boys, you remember the social media toppled Omar Bashir. Social media should not be used negatively. You should not use social media to draw pictures of dead presidents. No, you should not wish any president death. I am not very happy with some countries in Africa that hate their president to the extent of drawing pictures of the president in a coffin. That is stupid of the highest degree. Social media is not yours. Use it very, very nicely. You don't wish, we Africans, we can't use people, we can't wish people death. Even God does not want you to talk about death when he has not said you are going to die. So social media has been very instrumental in louding out and bringing out the voices of the people of Sudan. And we have a network. I have a very good network of Sudanese people, academics, doctors, professors, who talk to me on a daily basis, who encourage me not to give up as a person, an outsider, a non-Sudanese. I should keep up and talk to witness international groups that have said, can you help? These are very good for the social media. Continue doing what you are doing. Television stations like yours, it has picked a lot of an African outlook. Don't give up. In 2025, I want to thank your bosses to enlarge and bring many of us to talk about African issues. You have picked, you will pick and you will win, you will defeat CNN. Because if you allow us to talk the way we are talking on media, on the social media and the other Twitter and the spaces, and come here and discuss Africa like now, you are picking it up. And I allowed social media for doing it. There are a few people who use it negatively, like in my country and in East Africa. Some country in Kenya, the youths have gone beyond their levels, and they draw pictures of their president. You don't do that. You don't do that. You just continue to put your points, even if you disagree. If you disagree with the president, just put your points on the social media. Before you type anything that is going to cause conflict and hatred, think fast. But the social media has played a very positive role in the Sudan conflict, in the louding out the humanitarian catastrophe that is unfolding.
Well, one last question for you, Dr. Matsanga. We understand we're pressed for time. I'd love to ask you how African countries should respond to this fight in Sudan. You mentioned the impact it's having on countries like Uganda, where people are seeking refuge there. We're pressed for time and being told. Just quickly wrap up for us that in 30 seconds.
President Museveni, who was chosen as, President Museveni was chosen as AU envoy, AU contact group for the media, for the Sudan. Let him bring in new energy. Let IGAD come up with a new program. Let AU put in more people who are knowledgeable to the conflict. Don't take their civilians who have never actually negotiated an agreement anywhere. Some of us are here to help you voluntarily. We only need tickets to go and fly and look for these generals and talk to them and say, please, this is a very serious. Involve most of us. We are free here to work for Africa, especially myself. So therefore, it is important for AU. And thanks God, we are going to have a good man called Raila Amolo Odinga.
Thank you.
In the African Union. We shall be there. God will save us. We shall have peace in Sudan.
Thank you so much for your time on the program. Dr. David Matsanga, African Affairs Analyst. Many thanks indeed for your time.
Happy New Year, all of you and the staff and your management. Greet them for me. continue doing that, you will rise and shine as News Central. Thank you.
All right, and that's all on The Conversation. I am Adebola Adeduba. It's bye for now.